Hey guys, Dr. Tammy here. Today I'm going to be talking about acne, and it's something that I get asked a lot, believe it or not, even though my practice is mostly made up of menopausal females, because menopause is a time of hormone imbalance, and most of all acne is really caused by hormone imbalance. So I'm going to go through some very specific problems that present. We're going to go through the mechanism of action because if you don't know the underlying cause, you don't know how to treat it adequately, and otherwise you're just putting a band-aid on things, and that really never works long term, and you may actually make things worse or hurt yourself. So I'm going to go through some of the underlying causes and then the solutions for that as well. So I'm so glad you're here, and if you're struggling with acne or you have a loved one struggling with acne, I think you're really going to learn a lot here in the next few minutes with me. Okay, let's talk about what acne is not. Some of the acne myths. Get told a lot your face is dirty, or we tell our kids your face is just dirty, and some of our kids' faces are dirty, but for the most part, it's not from being dirty, and we're going to go through a lot of those reasons in just a minute. And sometimes washing it too much can wash away the natural oils, which can actually make it worse. You eat too much chocolate. Chocolate is, if you eat the right kinds of chocolate, you eat the pure dark chocolate, actually it can help with hormone balance. However, there is a lot of sugar in chocolate, and so sugar can cause inflammation, and especially inflammation in the skin. So there is some truth to that, but it's not just because somebody's sitting around eating chocolate all the time. You eat too many greasy foods. While greasy foods are not healthy for you and can increase inflammation in your system, and it's not grease in your skin. There's natural oil production in the skin, and we're going to talk about that as well. So it's not from just eating cheeseburgers. Constantly washing your face will cure acne. Again, it's not because it's dirty. It is because there's bacteria or there's other things on the skin. We're going to go through that. But washing your face more often will make it worse sometimes because you're going to wash off those natural oils that are protecting you. Sunlight will get rid of acne. Actually, a little bit of sun is good for vitamin D conversion, but too much sun is going to cause damage to the DNA in the skin, which doesn't make it heal as well. So really all about sunscreen and protecting your skin from the sun. Popping pimples will make them go away faster. Actually, that can cause scarring. If they are blackheads, there are extractors for deep blackheads that can be very helpful. But if you're just popping pimples because they're swollen and full, unless you're using a sterile needle and you know what you're doing, or a dermatologist is doing it because you have an abscess, it's really best to leave them alone. And alcohol will dry the oil and make the acne go away. Again, it's one of those things where you need your natural oils in your skin, so that's not something that is going to be helpful and could be detrimental. And one of the biggest concerns that we have is scarring. And so this is a very important topic to address because scarring is very difficult to treat. So we want to get it on the front end. So what is acne? Well, acne is a common skin condition that happens when hair follicles under the skin become clogged. Something called sebum is an oil that helps keep the skin from drying out. And as we age, we want plenty of that oil because it hydrates the skin. If the skin dries out, it gets cracked. It looks like a desert under a microscope. We don't want that. And we don't want those dead skin cells that flake off when you have dry skin. You know how like a sunburn, it flakes off. And they will actually plug the pores, and we don't want that in there. And that can lead to the outbreak of the lesions that we call pimples or zits. So what are blocked pores? So you can see on the image on the left that this is a hair follicle that's coming up through the epidermal layer of the skin. And if you were to look under a microscope, this is what you would see if you were to slice through a hair follicle, and that's a bit of hair that's coming through. On the acne side, what's happening is the oil glands are getting blocked and the oil production is not working adequately. And now you get a buildup of oil and it starts pressing up on the upper parts of the dermis or the skin. And now we have a pimple forming. So 6 acne causes, we'll go through those briefly. Genetics have a lot to do with acne. Oftentimes they'll say, well, my mom had bad acne, and that is because of hormones. And hormones are converted through different processes, but genetically people are more prone to do that than others. There is a process called methylation or detoxification, how your body converts its hormones through the liver. And so liver metabolism is genetically predetermined. Of course, environment makes a big difference, but genetics can have a big play in that. Bacteria. And, sometimes if people are putting things on their face, constantly touching their face, how often do we wash our smartphone, or, we should be alcohol uh, cleaning our smartphones very often because they are just absolutely filthy. They've done cultures of phones and just show that it's dirtier than a bathroom floor. So it's pretty disgusting cleaning those cases and all this stuff too. Hormones, absolutely. And that's why we mostly see it in the teenage years, because the hormones are fluctuating so much. And we see it in menopause again because as the ovaries start to decline in their egg production, the hormone production is very erratic too, especially in the perimenopause and menopause years. Lack of sleep, which can often be from stress, and stress increases your cortisol, which can then mess with all your other hormones, including your thyroid, your estrogen, progesterone. So it's really important to get good sleep. And cosmetics, if you're using heavy cosmetics, it's nice to have heavy cosmetics every once in a while when you're going out or a special occasion, but you really want to have thin cosmetics, airy cosmetics that aren't going to clog the pores. Make sure you wash your face. There's a condition called milia that happens a lot with menopausal women. It's where they kind of get the little white blocked pores, and real heavy makeups can do that, but always use a wipe, a makeup remover wipe, every time you take your makeup off at bedtime, because any of that makeup or anything, any products in the makeup or any artificial preservatives or anything can block those ducts. So we don't want that. And then food allergies, that's a big deal. And the reason we don't think of like a peanut allergy, that kind of allergy, but low grade inflammation, food sensitivities can cause inflammation, which is a big part in the duct as well. So we'll talk about that in just a second. And so this is kind of a 4-part issue going on, where the hair follicle comes through the skin, and keratin is normally that which builds up the skin, and we want that, but skin cells can block the duct. Then we get inflammation, which causes that pus to form, and that causes the inflamed red skin that we see. And then there's hormones, and hormones influence the oil. We call it sebum, the oil production that helps keep that lubricated and helps it push through the skin smoothly. And then there's bacteria in this upper layer, and we'll talk about that too in just a second. So did you know that just like you have gut bacteria and you take probiotics for your gut, you also have what's called a microbiome, not just in your gut, but on your skin. And if you have an overpopulation of the wrong kind of bacteria on your skin, you want that balance. And here's the deal. A lot of the traditional medical ways of treating acne are trying to wipe out the bacteria. They use antibiotics, topical antibiotics, oral antibiotics. And yeah, that wipes out all the bacteria. But the healthy biome, the bacteria have a very specific purpose, and that is to eat some of those dead skin cells and some of the things. And they also keep the balance between the bad and the yeast and all sorts of other things too. So we don't want to kill all the bacteria. We just want to kill the ones that are causing problems. So it's solutions, probiotics, both oral and topical. Here's a research study that was done in the Natural Library of Medicine, and it's very extensive, and I can get you the resource citings if you want. But the concluding remarks were that in recent years, significant advances have been made in understanding the composition of the skin microbiome. Dysbiosis is when there is an unbalance in the microbiome of these bacteria. And so topical probiotics in the form of various dermatological formulations are important in the treatment of skin conditions. So that was their summary. In this research article, they actually do list some different topical probiotic serums that they used and the comparisons. And so if you want those resources, we can give you those resources as well, or we can link that in the comments below. But there are different products, and I'm not recommending any particular one, but in this research article, they do go over those. Food sensitivity tests, I do this a lot in my practice for inflammation. Sensitivities can be very helpful, and if you can identify foods that are causing inflammation in your system, that inflammation could also be in the skin, making acne worse. So this can be very helpful as well. So not just teens. Why? Because With menopause, again, our hormones are changing a lot, and we want more balance with our hormones because what's happening is it's very erratic, especially when we first start our periods and when we're ending our periods. So that's the most common places to see acne and to see these imbalances. So, how do you know if it is a hormonal acne? Well, it usually appears around the lower part of the face. That's also where we tend to touch our face the most, too. So, we can get bacteria from our hands on our face. Comes around the time of the month, which is when our progesterone is the lowest. And so, when we're cycling between estrogen and progesterone during menstrual cycles or in menopause when everything's starting to crash, we'll see more acne around those times when the hormones are very erratic. They're very painful. Hormone-related acne is the type that causes what we call cystic acne, which is quite uncomfortable. And it could appear on other parts of the body, like the arms and sometimes on the back. We call that backne. So those are usually hormonal excess problems or imbalances that we see. And also, insulin is one of the hormones as well, and insulin like growth factor. And those are hormones that you can get tested for, and you can see if you have imbalances. A lot of people with insulin resistance will gain weight, have acne, male hair growth. There's all sorts of things that can happen. We won't go into all the nerdy science of that. But basically, what happens is we have an increase in the oil. And when you have an increase in the oil, it's all about balance. You want some oil to keep the skin moisturize, and you want that hair follicle to be able to come up smoothly through the skin, but we don't want too much. So this is a little hormone conversion. DHEA is one of the precursors of testosterone. And as testosterone is converted, it's not testosterone that's the problem. And a lot of menopausal women I do treat with testosterone because it helps with energy and build muscle and build bone and libido and so many different things. But the problem is that it can go back and forth to estrogen, which can be a whole nother ballgame. But the big problem is that it can convert into something called DHT or dihydrotestosterone. And when that happens, that is the specific one that can have the biggest effect on the sebum or the oil in the gland. And so there are many natural things like saw palmetto. There are some prescription medications like spironolactone that can block this conversion. So we have a lot of different options. And birth control basically suppresses all of these hormones. But that again is, unless you need family planning, I'm not telling you not to use birth control or that our teenagers or that as we're transitioning through menopause that we don't need hormones. I prefer bioidentical hormones, but if you need family planning and don't want to get pregnant, that's a whole nother conversation. But through menopause, it's a lot easier for me to prescribe bioidentical hormones. So let's kind of go through some of the solutions now. A balanced diet, of course. We want things high in omega-3 fatty acids. So you have that lubrication in the hair follicle, but we don't want to eat unhealthy oils, right? Saturated fats and things like that. But we do want the healthy oils and we do want the balance. Zinc is a supplement that's wonderful for inflammation and it can really reduce acne flare-ups. It's great for skin, any kind of eczema. Green tea, that can be very powerful. It has anti-inflammatory properties and there's a lot of skincare products that have green tea and it's very soothing too. Probiotics, both oral and topical. We just talked about that a minute ago. We want to restore the skin's microbiome. Spearmint tea, that's kind of a unique one. Not everybody's heard of that, but there are lots of studies that suggest that drinking spearmint tea can help reduce androgen levels in the blood too, and that can really help with the hormonal acne. Stress management. Since stress can worsen acne, techniques like mindfulness, yoga, or even regular exercise can help manage your stress levels. Getting lots of sleep, we talked about that. Gentle skincare routines, so using gentle non-blocking, we call that comedogenic skincare products can help, and overwashing or using harsh products can aggravate it. Tea tree oil is one. Tea tree oil is kind of stinky, so you have to be careful with that one, and it should be diluted because it can be a little irritating. It is a good lubrication to the hair follicles and has anti-inflammatory effect, so that's why that's a good one. Turmeric, we know about that for inflammation. So you could get a turmeric mask. And, we think of like the melon mask and all those kinds of things, but really good for acne and inflammation. Vitamin D. Vitamin D is actually a hormone. And again, like we said, we don't want to get a lot of sun exposure and burn the skin and destroy the skin, but we want a good amount of sun for some vitamin D conversion. And Having the right amount of vitamin D can actually help your immune system, which helps with inflammation as well. So many different things vitamin D helps with. Wash your pillowcase often. We don't think about that. Sometimes we just do laundry once a week, but have a set of pillowcases that you can change out nightly because we're laying on that. Wash your face really good before you go to bed, but clean pillowcases is really important. Aloe vera, we all know that aloe vera has a nice soothing effect. If you've ever had a burn and put aloe vera on it, but it's very good for the skin. It won't block the pores, so wonderful. Apple cider vinegar can be used as a toner or witch hazel, that kind of thing. So it can get some of that bacteria off, but you don't want to dry the skin too much. Witch hazel, again, can help reduce inflammation. Avoid touching your face and encourage your teenagers to avoid touching their face. It's really hard not to do sometimes, but you don't want to transfer those oils and the bacteria to the skin on the face. Hydration, you want to drink plenty of water, and that helps keep the skin hydrated and healthy. And at some point, you might want to consult with a doctor. And again, I'm a doctor, but not your doctor. So always consult with your doctor before any supplements or you make any changes to anything, start or stop any medications. But if acne persists or is severe, it's always a good idea to consult with a doctor because scarring is a big deal and we don't want that to happen. Medications that your doctor might prescribe might be natural progesterone, spironolactone, and those can be hormone blockers or hormone regulators. And topical creams like Retin-A can help as well, but can be very drying to the skin, which we don't want long term. Topical antibiotics and oral antibiotics, yes, while it will be a band aid, it's not fixing the problem. And like we said with the microbiome, we want the balance and we want healthy skin. And things like Accutane are basically like chemotherapy. Yes, they're effective. Does it always work? No. Does it work long term? No. It's very harmful to the liver. And so that is a informed consent conversation that you want to have. And you want to make sure you're doing it under the supervision of a doctor and getting your labs test. But it could be helpful. And not saying don't do it, but one of the things I would definitely try everything else before I did that. And synthetic hormones, I try to stay away from those. Birth control, yeah, it will suppress all your hormones, but how healthy is that for your whole body in long term? So, just a few things to think about. And when you do visit with your doctor, be informed and be your own best advocate. All right, guys, that wraps it up. Hope this was helpful. Please pass it along, share with anybody, teenagers or menopause or anywhere in between, people who are having trouble with acne, and you might really be able to help them. All right, y'all have a wonderful. All right, guys, that wraps it up. Love you all very much. If this was helpful, please share it with someone that you know that might be struggling with this. And if you need anything or have any questions, please reach out. And I'm happy to do more presentations on subjects just like this. Mwah! See you later.